Welcome back to Cataclysm. Jonathan Richardson, a lone survivor after the zombie apocalypse, has just gathered up some of the items that he had outside, made two neat piles, one to the south of him with planks, and just one north with some splintered wood to kindle a fire later. But he knows that this cannot continue. He needs to gather up some items. So what he will do is he'll head back down to town and see what he can find. All these items he will have to gather up, but they are not his priority right now. He has a few items with him. Probably some things that he might just put away. You can see a rattlesnake far away, so he's gonna circle around that one. Hopefully it won't attack. Doesn't seem to be following him, so he continues down. He passes by the traps that he found earlier. He can see the house off in the distance, one that he has entered before, so he cannot quite tell if the house was the one with all the items that he picked up. Makes a mental note to scratch it down on the wall to mark it as looted. Looks around the corner, but nothing. So he breaks into the house through the window. So here is a book about swords. He might be able to grab some of that. A rain hood. Probably covering only the head, but it will keep him a little bit dry. You can see a pot which he knows that he will need to gather up because otherwise he cannot boil water. But he has found some food. He might need a frying pan, but he's not sure, so he's leaving it for now. A heat pack might be useful. He decides to not drink wine because he wants to be awake and active and focused. You can see a shocker zombie, and he knows how dangerous these can be. So he quickly ducks into a corner and smashes the zombie with his crowbar. Quickly cleaning out the window from items to make sure that he can get through without getting cut on anything. He scans the area. He sees what could be a law enforcement officer, but the shambling walk alerts him to the fact that this is not an ordinary zombie. So he dashes in some books. He knows that that might help him to relax time and keep himself occupied once he's out in the wilderness. So he marks down on the wall, scratching in the mark that this one has been looted, so he doesn't have to go there again. He knows that there are few items there, but figures he can come back for them later in case. Another book. He can barely carry all this. He can hear the zombie trying to crash through the door. He knows that the zombie will break through. So he closes off the window and waits for the zombie to break through. There it is. He ducks to the side as the zombie smashes the glass and swing at it as it's trying to climb out, dies. He steps in to butcher the corpse. And he's very hungry. He just needs to get back to his shelter. There are more zombies in the building, so he makes a run for it. Dashing off along the road, leaving the zombies behind. All the pain from the damage he took earlier is starting to take a toll, but he's determined to go on. So he takes a look at what he has. He can move down the pot, and he doesn't need to carry around the extra rock, nor the digging stick really, or the heat pack, so he'll empty this out. The dust mask, well, might keep the dust mask on in case. You never know. The books, though, he moves them to one single place so that he can keep it secure, not scatter them around the area. Stores the food in. He decides that he will cook the bacon that he has. And he would drink water just to keep himself hydrated. He has a matchbook, so he can gather up some splintered wood. And he glances at his pile. He didn't bring... No, he did not. He has nothing that he can cook. He has some meat. Maybe he has some meat. He has a pot, but not a lot of other things. He could light a fire here, but without any meat, well, at least the fire will make sure that he's warm. He drops a little bit of splintered wood into the shallow pit, and then he carefully lights it. So there's nothing he can do but eat the bacon cold. He holds it up against the fire, but there's not a lot he can do. Doesn't really change anything without a frying pan. So he drinks some water until he has quenched his thirst. He looks around. He really needs to build himself a bed, but he could get himself a makeshift bed, I suppose. Though he don't have any idea how to make one at the moment, but at some point. A charcoal water purifier might be something that he could make so that he could purify water easier. But sun is setting, so he decides to take a look at the items around here. And he finds a few items scattered about. Pocket survival guide. He decides he's gonna sit down and read some of this later. He also finds a chemistry set, which he will carry back once he has some more. Once his bags are not so full, because starting to bulge with items, so he goes back to leave them back home. He puts the last bacon back in and moves the water that is still there. He sees that he hasn't got a lot of water, which worries him a bit, but there should be more water in the area, for sure. The books he drop off. And the string. It's getting late, but he decides to grab himself the book about swords and read it. So he moves over to the console that is still lit enough, emitting enough light from the screen to actually allow him to read. So he's gonna study cutting weapons. And night falls around him, but he's not yet tired. But he feels that he has a little bit of an idea about how a normal cutting weapon might work. So he walks back, stumbles a bit in the dark, and drops the book down. He's a little bit tired, so he decides that a little bit of grape juice before going to bed and an apple will do, just to make sure that he does not sleep on an empty stomach. Then goes over to the counter, lies down to sleep. He wakes up shivering from the cold. He doesn't have any clothing that might help him stay warm. Didn't think that far. The nights weren't that cold, but this building is not really very insulated. He tries for a while to get some sleep in the corner by the computer. But it just cannot. But he falls asleep again on the counter, which is a bit more comfortable, and wakes up by the light. He spots some animals out through the window. But he eats a little bit of cheese and drinks some water before he gets on to the day's business. He's starting to gather up a few bottles, but he's not gonna need all of these bottles, so he moves them. He stores them on the floor and makes sure that he puts away the items that he knows that he won't need. So the plastic canteen might be a good idea, and he knows that the bottles might be useful, but he needs to find a source of water first. He drops all the splintered wood. And now all he is carrying that is taking space in his inventory is that nail gun, but he cannot get rid of that. It is too important for him. He steps out. Out in the distance he can see a raccoon, a rabbit far away, and then a coyote far out. He decides to not risk anything and goes out another path. The wilderness is encroaching on his location though, and he can see a jumping spider. And he knows that these are very dangerous, but also a wolf. He figures that he will need to make himself some form of weapon to help him defend. So he's gonna make himself a bow. He will also need some arrows for that, so he can just make some wooden arrows. He makes a bunch of 70 arrows just to have some carried with him. And he decides to pick up some splintered wood. Maybe not that much. Go out and light the fire. Because while these arrows are all nice, they're not very effective. So he will light the fire and craft. Fortunately, he cannot, so there is no way for him to craft what he thought he would be able to. So he quickly grabs the kindling and drops it off. He knows that he has very little skill with the bow, so he decides to go hunting a little bit. And he barely misses the squirrel, which is kind of a difficult target for him. Small, moves fast, but he knows that he cannot meet a wolf or a coyote yet. He just does not have enough skill with the marksmanship. So he hit the raccoon. He even managed to kill it. But he could not recover any meat from the corpse. The rabbit runs away, so he decides to return back. He needs to find a way back into town without attracting any of the spiders that are around him. But that will be in the next episode. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.